Hey everybody, welcome to another bike review. This time not a pointless bike review because you can actually still get this bike. It's a 2021 Crewkerz Guilty 24-inch street trails bike. Okay, so first things first, what the heck am I doing on a 24-inch bike again? Well, COVID sucked. The last year was terrible for everybody, pretty much around the world. And my favorite bike in the whole world, my Czar Neuron 26, the 2017 version, the orange one, it was stolen. And at the time, you couldn't get almost anything because everything was out of stock, and people were buying bikes like crazy. So I found a Hex Pro model, not the Team model, the 15-inch or the 15mm through axle version. Anyway, I ordered one of those, and it's a Hex. They're good bikes, but it wasn't quite the replacement that I was looking for my old Czar. So I was looking for something that was a little closer to that. So I'm looking around, and this had just come out. I had seen some of them, but I wasn't exactly interested in it. But it had all the right numbers. So I figured maybe it's time to get back into a 24, something that spins a little faster, but can still do all the things that I really liked about the 26s. So here it is. And those numbers that I really liked, it's 990 wheelbase, which is a lot like my Czar was, which is nice. It's a little shorter than the Hex, but longer than some of the Czar 24s. It's plus 25 on the bottom bracket, which I liked. 74-degree head angle, which I also liked. Really short chainstay. It's a 363, not a 362, or some of the ones that you can get that are actually shorter, because there's a bit of space in here. So that could be shorter, but it's pretty good. It's not much off. I managed to get it as just a frame. I emailed a bunch of shops to see if I could get just the frame instead of the full bike. And Trial Bikes in Spain got back to me, and they said they could get a frame for me somehow, and they managed to get one for me. So I got it as just the frame, because that's what I wanted, because I wanted to put all my own parts on it. I'm sure if you buy it as a full bike, it's probably got decent specs, but it doesn't have carbon rims, and it doesn't have, there's all the stuff that I did to it, it doesn't come with it, so I didn't want to spend the extra money for just that. So let's get into what I've done to it and all that. Alright, so the front of the bike. Pretty standard here. It's a tapered head tube, 1.1 up top, 1.5 down below. I went for an old Czar fork on here. I don't know anything about the fork that comes with the Guilty. It looks okay. But this was cheaper, and I know I like this fork because I've used it on numerous bikes before. It's really stiff. It's a little heavier than some of the other offerings, but I like it's got a screw-on top cap, so you can route the brake hose through. It's 15mm through axle, and all of my stuff is 15mm through axles now, so I wanted to keep that compatibility. It's native for 180 disc rotor, so these were all good things for me, so that's what I went with. It came in blue because I got it from Tardy, and all they had was blue, but it was the wrong kind of blue for this weird blue-gray that the Guilty is in. So I just stripped it, and I didn't strip it very well, so it's kind of got that urban look, maybe. Anyway, I like it. The silver accent is okay, but I can do something else with it later if I want to. But it gets the job done great. I like forks that have straight legs and the offset is in the dropout. It's just an aesthetic thing for me. I don't know. I mean, I know that if it's cocked a little bit in the actual legs, and you get a little bit more of a spring, and you can stick your foot in here better or whatever. But this frame is cut out so that you can stick your foot in there to do all your foot jam type moves. So yeah, I just prefer the visuals of a straight fork leg with the offset at the dropouts. I'm running MT5s again, front and rear. MT5 up front. This is actually the MT5 that I was using for my Shigura setup. So it's still got the little set screw holes that I drilled to make it like a Hayes A4. So the set screws are still in there. It hasn't broken yet. It's been fine. I mean, it's only on the front, so it's not taken a lot of abuse. 180mm rotors. I'm still using the extra light hub up front. I started off with Spank rims. Now I've got a light bicycle. This is like a BMX cruiser class carbon rim. It's 32 wide, which I wouldn't do on the rear, but for the front it's pretty good. So I've got that on the front, and it comes with this cool silver logo that I don't think they offer the silver logo on any of the other ones, but it doesn't have any other logos on it, so it's kind of weird. It doesn't really match the back, but anyway. It's 28 holes because with a carbon rim, you don't really need a whole lot of spokes because the rim is so stiff. Anyway, but that's all personal stuff that I did to the bike. That's not the way they come if you order the full bike. But it's been a great wheel so far, although I've only put it on like a couple of months ago. So, but it's going great. Now let's talk about the rear. The back end of the bike. This is the business end of a trials bike. Again, like I said, it's a 363 chainstay. So they could shrink it a little bit because I got room in here, and Holy Rollers are fairly big. I mean, if you want to run like some serious trials tires, they get bigger, but Holy Rollers are pretty big, and there's, you know, I can stick my finger easily in there. So they could shrink that a little bit, but whatever. It's a 12 millimeter through axle, and I think it's even printed on the frame. Nope, it's printed on this side. Anyway, 12 millimeter through axle. Screw this in. It's got a Torx screw to get in there. I'm running an Industry 9 hub that I've been running on other different bikes. The frame is post-mount native for 180 millimeter rotors, so I'm running 180 millimeter rotor. No adapters. It's been great. It's been fine. I like the double wheel tensioner that it comes with. It's found on a lot of the trials bikes, like the pure trials bikes, where it's got, you know, the little set screw thing. I'll show you a little close up of this, but I really like how this runs. It allows for vertical dropouts, or, you know, like the through axle, so you're not sliding your wheel to tension the chain, and I'm okay with that. So again, MT5 in the rear, MT5 front and rear, just a regular standard MT5 levers. 180, it's doing fine. No adapters. It's a nice chunky piece of metal that makes up the brake mount and the dropout here. There isn't a single round tube on this frame. I mean, each one of these frames is like a custom shape. They're all kind of funky shapes. The welds are really nice. There's something really cool about the bottom bracket area that I will show you in the bottom bracket yoke. We'll get a close up of that when we look at the drivetrain side. But this frame is expensive because every one of these tubes is a custom shape, and it makes for an extra stiff bike. Apparently, the bottom bracket area is based off of the Jealousy frame, the 26 and the 20. So they kind of took what they know, Crewkerz, what they know, and, you know, from other bikes, and put it on here, which is also a little bit of a sad point for me, because this bottom bracket is kind of silly for a street trials bike, but we'll get into that when I show you the drive side. The rear triangle's nice and stiff, pretty standard, plenty of clearance. It's a box saddle that I rescued from another bike, just light and keeps it out of the way, and, you know, that's all I need. I've got a light bicycle carbon rim on the back as well. It's the 38 millimeter, which I could kind of held off from getting it for a while because I thought that might be a little too wide for a street trials bike because it would change the roll of the tire, but it's been pretty good. I did have it burp an edge. I'm still using tubes, so that was a nice big explosion when it when it burped, basically, and the tube came out and exploded, and, you know, everybody had it. But I think it was because my pressure was pretty low that day. It's been great otherwise. You know, I've had lots of light bicycle rims in the past. It would be nice if they offered something in a 35. That would be ideal for me because I would run 35s front and rear. But whatever, it's fine. Industry 9 Hydra hub, it's going fine. They feel great. Good customer support. I haven't had a Hydra go bad. I had a Torch go bad, and they replaced it with a Hydra. So thanks, guys. Yeah. So now let's talk about the bottom bracket. All right, so this bottom bracket, this is a pretty interesting part of the bike. It makes it pretty unique. The bottom bracket is asymmetrical. It's offset to one side. You can't really see from that angle, but trust me. And the reason they did that is for their own crank. Originally, I wanted to run Shimano cranks on this, but that was impossible. And then I originally ran some Bones cranks that did work, but they weren't ideal, and I didn't want to buy these cranks because they're like $300 cranks, and that didn't really make sense to me. But in the end, I broke down and I got these cranks because these are really the cranks that you have to run with this frame, unfortunately. Or maybe not, unfortunately. I don't know. I mean, they've turned out to be really nice cranks. So I do dig these cranks. It's got this is their bash guard. I just stripped it because it came in red originally, so I just took the anodizing off of it. But the way this yoke is made, and the yoke is really cool because the bottom bracket and the yoke are one piece. This yoke is not welded to the bottom bracket. It's part of the bottom bracket shell, which is really cool. I don't really know if that makes it stronger or stiffer or whatever, but there's no there's no welds to misalign when you do it that way. It makes it nice and clean, and then the welds are just here for the chainstay tube. So it's really cool, but it's offset. So most cranks just aren't going to fit, and then that doesn't even matter because the way this yoke is, it's so tight that you can only get an 18-tooth chain ring in there, and it was okay on the bones because I could run an 18-tooth on that, but I moved to this one because it is an AS30. It's asymmetrical, 30 millimeter. It's a 30 millimeter spindle in here, and that's really what you should run with this frame, unfortunately. So you got to spring for these cranks. These are the cranks that come with the full bike. So if you buy the full bike, this is what you're going to get anyway. I don't know exactly what kind of chain ring they have on there, but it's a standard Shimano splined HG. So you can find plenty of 18 tooth to put on here. You might possibly be able to get a 20 tooth on here if you wanted to play around with some different ratios. It's possible. I mean, that's the clearance you got to work with. So there you go. You can't put a 22 on here. Because if you wanted to put a 22, it would have to be farther out, and then your chain line doesn't match up, and you got to get it through the tensioner. So there's just lots of problems if you try to put a 22 on here. You might be able to do it with a 20, but there isn't a really good 1.37 ratio to work out when you have a 20 up front. So whatever. Those are the downsides. I guess it has some advantages, but it has, I think, a whole lot more disadvantages if you want to run your own stuff. If you want to run their stuff, no problem. You kind of have to run their stuff. This is a Chris King 18 tooth because I was running 18s in the rear on some other bike, so I had some of these lying around. So it all worked out. It's a press fit bottom bracket, 46 millimeter hole in the frame that you press the cups into, and these cups come with these cranks, so you get the bottom bracket with the cranks, which is nice, even though it's way too expensive. But the problem with press fit cups is that there's always going to be a little bit of play because these get so abused because of the torques involved with the way we ride trials, that since it's not screwed in, there's always going to be a little bit of moving around in there. And the more times you change your cups, the worse it's going to get. So over the life of the bike, it's just going to get worse and worse. I would have preferred a different bottom bracket system than the press fit, but you don't have a choice with that, so that's what you get. Yeah, so it creaks, and I've tried to get rid of the creaks, but I can't because there's just too much stuff moving in here. These cranks have a 2-bolt pinch bolt system, which is nice. The Bones only had a single pinch bolt, which is kind of the downfall of the Bones cranks. But you can change out the other arm for a Shimano arm that's got 2 bolts, so you can fix that. But unfortunately on the Bones, the spindle axle was just not long enough for this frame because it's offset, and this cup is basically just too far. You can see, like, I'll show you in a different angle, but anyway, this bottom bracket is just too wide for all the standard measurements for bottom brackets. But if you use their system, it works out great. And it's really nice and stiff, and it delivers all that power to the rear wheel. And like I said, these are pretty nice cranks. I'm still using my HT pedals. You can see all the silver pins are the ones that have been replaced. Because oh look, a new pin that I broke. Must have done that yesterday. So yeah, I mean these pins break because they come aluminum. The ones that I replace them with are stainless steel. So the ones that get replaced are much stronger. I still like these pedals. They're easy to rebuild. They'll last, usually at least a year before you need to rebuild them. Sometimes more, depending on conditions or depending on what day of the week it was built. But yeah, now let's get some glamour shots of the bike. So here's the 2-wheel tensioner that they use. It's pretty standard on a lot of trials bikes now. this kind of one piece welded here with the hole, and you use you need 2 tools to you get your spring tension by torquing on this one to get it to tension thing, and then you tighten the pinch bolt here. And it's nice, on a lot of frames it's just threaded into the frame, but on this one there's actually a replaceable threaded bit, so you can't like destroy your frame by over tightening that, that's a pretty good idea. The original one came with, I think, 11 tooth jockey wheels, and I went down to 10 tooth jockey wheels just to kind of straighten the chain line a little bit. It's working fine. I just went for the cheap Shimano plastic ones because everything else that was like the aluminum ones were too expensive. So they're just the cheap plastic Shimano 9 tooth jockey wheels, or 10 tooth jockey wheels. I don't know how to count. 13 in the rear. This is I think this is a gusset double 6, or I don't know exactly what this is, but it's a 13 tooth on the Industry 9. You know, I love the Hydra hubs. They're great. It's going great. The bike's upside down right now, so don't get too confused. Okay, so here's those gorgeous custom tubes I was talking about on this frame. Like I said, there isn't a round tube on this frame. They are very weird shapes. I'm just going to assume that they're optimized for strength and stiffness. Apparently this is how they do it on the Jealousies. I've never seen a Jealousy, so I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, these tubes are pretty sweet. And unfortunately that makes the bike more expensive. But so far it's worth it. I mean, I'm really digging this bike. It's probably now my new favorite. So there you have it, 2021 Crewkerz Guilty 24-inch street trials bike. I am enjoying the heck out of this bike. It spins great. It does everything that my Hex can do, or my old Czar could do. There's a couple of things that doesn't quite do as well because of the smaller wheels, but everything else got it covered. It was an instant transition from hopping off of the 26-inch to this because the numbers are just perfect for me. I highly recommend this bike. I've been abusing the heck out of it. It's opened up a bunch of avenues for me because I feel like trying things that I hadn't tried before. Been taking it to the skate parks, which it's got some damage all over it. I've been riding the skate park as often as I can, really. It's a wonderful bike. I can't say enough nice things about it. I'm not sponsored by Crewkerz or anything. I had to pay for this thing. I had to get it shipped to me and bought everything that's on it out of my own pocket. But I'm really, really loving this bike. No desire to replace it at the moment. Maybe if I could find another 2017 Czar. Anybody got one? Kind of giving up hope on that. But yeah, this is an admirable replacement, and I'm going to be riding this thing until it dies. Which doesn't seem to be like it's going to be very soon because it's pretty well built. So I think I'm going to go out and ride, and I encourage everybody else to do the same thing.